Hi, welcome to the Retreat at Split Rock. I'm Neil Gordon, and now we're going to discuss how do you know what you need and when, with the goals being in facial rejuvenation, duplicate my past appearance with no evidence of an intervention. What we've shown so far is that our look is created by our frame, and the soft tissue of our face stretches out due to gravity's forces, very similar to how pizza dough would if we held it in the air. We can understand the stages of our changes to understand what modalities would work when. Although age is a significant factor in facial changes, age is not the only factor. Face type matters a lot. There are some people with stretchy, compliant soft tissue, and those people will change or stretch out earlier than some of their contemporaries. And the opposite is true also. Some people will have stiffer faces and actually hold up better. This is independent of behavior and independent of our looks. So while age is a guideline, it's not the only factor. One of the concepts that has dominated the world and our media has been the concepts of volume loss. Volume loss is stating that the majority of aging would be due to missing something. Our volume is decreasing. And although many faces will look deflated as if they're devoid of volume, we can understand what aging is and why volume can work at a particular time, but not necessarily work at other times because the face is changing as we get older. So why don't we use a different analogy to illustrate our points? So imagine a trip to the shoe store. You're a size 7. When you go to the store, the shoe you're interested in is not available in the size 7, but is available in the 7.5. So again, what would youth be? The size 7 shoe fitting your frame or your foot perfectly. The size 7.5 that's available is essentially an early aged face. Well, how do we make that work? We could fill it. We can put an inner sole, a cushion, something to take up the space and camouflage that it's loose. Putting an inner sole in a shoe is really the same concept as putting facial filler in a face. Filler can't lift anything, otherwise the laws of physics would be wrong, but what it can do is camouflage the early stage of facial aging by taking up the gap made by the soft tissue that has just started to stretch out. But what would happen if the only size available would be a size 10 or an 11? Could we then use the same technique or modality, putting a cushion or a filler in the shoe? We can't. So one of the more obvious things we see today is the inappropriate use of fillers and Botox in faces that really don't warrant it, based again on their anatomy. So if we follow anatomy and we follow the physics of why something occurs and what fixes it, that's how we'll achieve the best results. So, what evidence exists that will support what we're talking about versus defy it? If aging is a stretched out face, then what we should see is a face has extra everywhere. But clearly, faces look deflated. Faces do look like they're missing something. And we've already stated there is a purpose to adding material to face in the early stages. So I wrote a well-known academic chapter called The Illusion of Volume Loss, and have presented this as a talk at conferences around the globe. We could prove why volume is an illusion by going back to just the anatomy. Well, if we look at youth, as we have a container filled with volume, and a youthful look is very similar to this water glass filled to the top with volume. What we showed on my nurse Adele is the container gets very large. So if we take the same exact volume and we transfer it to a bigger container, what we see is the volume only fills up a small portion of the container. If we do not have this as a reference point and we just look at the larger container, clearly looks like it's missing volume. But what we showed is that what changes is not necessarily the volume, but the container, because both these glasses have the same amount of water. And that's why volume loss is mainly an illusion. What we've defined at this point is that at one point, everybody needs a tailor. Now, how do you know? The ways you could tell yourself is first, if you feel there's a lot of soft tissue redundancy. The more extra you have, the more filling it would be no different than filling a really large pair of shoes. Second, we see shape changes. The face gets elongated and rectangular, wide on the bottom. Third, neck changes. Once the neck is loosened and hanging, essentially we have a pair of pants that are 4 sizes too big or a pair of shoes that are 3 sizes too big. And these people need a tailor. So thank you for visiting Split Rock. We hope we see you soon.